At Christmas dinner, my dad announced, "You're a burden and you can't live with us anymore." The next day, when they found my room empty, they probably thought I'd be back, begging. They were wrong. The silence at the dinner table was deafening. My fork clattered onto my plate as my dad's words echoed in my ears. "You're a burden." My stepmom, Susan, just smirked into her wineglass, her eyes twinkling with a cold, triumphant light. My step-siblings, Mark and Ashley, barely looked up from their phones. This was my family, or what was left of it. Ever since my mom passed away and dad remarried, I'd become the outsider, the unwanted relic of a previous life. I was 18, working to part-time jobs while trying to finish high school online. I paid rent, bought my own groceries, and did more than my fair share of chores. A burden. The accusation was so absurd, it was almost laughable. But the venom in his voice was real. This wasn't a sudden outburst, it was a planned execution. "Where am I supposed to go?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Dad shrugged, carving another slice of turkey. "That's not my problem. You're an adult now, figure it out. You have until the end of the month." The end of the month was just a week away. Christmas, the season of giving, had become the season of eviction for me. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in my small attic room, staring at the ceiling, the festive lights from the neighbors' houses mocking me through the window. For years, I had tried so hard to earn their affection, to fit into this new family unit. I was quiet, I was helpful, I was invisible. But it was never enough. I was a constant reminder of the wife my dad had lost, and Susan couldn't stand the sight of me. A flicker of anger sparked within me, pushing aside the despair. "Figure it out," he said. Fine. I would. Instead of crying, I started planning. I packed a single duffel bag with my most essential belongings, a few changes of clothes, my laptop, my mom's old locket, and the small stash of cash I'd been saving for college. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I spent the next few hours online, not looking for a homeless shelter, but for a way out. A real way out. The next morning, the day after Christmas, the house was quiet. They were all sleeping in, recovering from their festive feast. I tiptoed downstairs, bag in hand. I paused at the living room, looking at the perfectly decorated tree, the mountain of presents underneath it, none of which had my name on them. A bitter smile touched my lips. I took one last look at the house that was never a home, and slipped out the front door, closing it softly behind me. I didn't just leave the house, I left town. I used my savings to buy a bus ticket to a city 3 states away. A place where I knew no one, but where I had found a potential opportunity online, a lineman assistant position for an elderly woman. It was a long shot, but it was better than nothing. The first few months were the hardest. I was lonely and scared. But Mrs. Gable, the woman I worked for, was kind. She was a retired history professor with a sharp mind and a warmer heart than my entire family combined. She saw my hunger to learn and my desperation to build a life for myself. She didn't see a burden, she saw potential. She encouraged me to finish my high school diploma, then helped me apply for college scholarships. I worked for her during the day, and I studied late into the night. My life became a whirlwind of chores, errands, and textbooks. It was exhausting, but for the first time, I felt a sense of purpose. I wasn't just surviving, I was building. Years flew by. I graduated from college with a degree in business. At the top of my class, Mrs. Gable had become like a grandmother to me, my mentor and my biggest cheerleader. With her guidance and a small loan she insisted on giving me, I started my own online marketing business. I poured every ounce of the resilience I'd learned into it. The business started small, just me in a tiny apartment, but it grew. Slowly at first, then all at once. Meanwhile, I heard nothing from my so-called family. I had changed my number and deleted my social media. To them, I had simply vanished. I often wondered if they ever thought of me, if they felt even a flicker of guilt. Part of me hoped they did. 8 years after that fateful Christmas, my company was a major success. We had offices in 3 cities, and I was being featured in business magazines. One day, my assistant came into my office. "There's a man here to see you," she said, looking puzzled. "A Mr. Thompson. He says he's your father." My blood ran cold. I hadn't heard that name in almost a decade. Curiosity, and perhaps a desire for closure, got the better of me. "Send him in," I said, my voice steady. The man who walked in was a shadow of the father I remembered. He was grayer, stooped, and his eyes held a desperate, hollow look. The expensive suit he wore was frayed at the cuffs. He looked around my spacious, sunlit office with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Lily," he said, his voice raspy. Is that really you? It is, I replied, keeping my tone cool and professional. What can I do for you, Mr. Thompson? The formality stung him. I could see it in his eyes. He launched into a rambling story. His business had failed a few years back. Susan had left him, taking the kids and most of the money. He had lost the house. He was broke, living in a tiny apartment, and struggling to make ends meet. He had seen my picture in a magazine and had spent months tracking me down. I can't believe it, he said, shaking his head. All this, you did all this? I did, I said simply. Then came the real reason for his visit. He cleared his throat, shame and desperation warring on his face. Lily, I need your help. I'm in a really bad place. A loan, a job, anything. I'm your father, after all. I leaned back in my chair and looked at him. The man who had called me a burden, who had cast me out on Christmas, was now here, begging for a handout. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I thought about all the lonely nights, the struggles, the sheer terror of being alone in the world. I thought about Mrs. Gable's kindness, the opportunity she gave me. I thought about the life I had built, not in spite of him, but because he had forced me to rely on myself. I took a deep breath. I remember a Christmas dinner a long time ago. I began, my voice quiet but firm. You told me I was a burden and that my problems were not your concern. You told me to figure it out. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. And I did. I figured it out. Now, it's your turn. I turned back to face him. His face had gone pale. My problems, I said, echoing his words from all those years ago, are not your problem. You're an adult. Figure it out. I buzzed my assistant. Please show Mr. Thompson out. He stared at me, speechless, as security escorted him from my office. As the door closed, I didn't feel triumph or glee. I just felt free. Free from the past, free from the pain, and free from the people who never deserved to be called my family. I had built my own life, my own success, and my own family with people who truly cared. And that was the best Christmas gift I could have ever given myself. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.